Goeienaand en baie welkom by In Gesprek. Presies 5 jaar gelede het Suid-Afrika soos baie ander lande tot stilstand gekom toe ons weens die COVID-19 pandemie ingeperk is. Vanaand vra ons watter lesse het ons intussen geleer. Ons hoor later by die DA of daar 'n ooreenkoms bereik is met die begroting en ons berig oor die gevolge op voedselvlak indien ons uit AGOA geskop word. Ons begin egter met die lied Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer. Die EFF-leier Julius Malema het dit onlangs weer by 'n Menseregte-dag geleentheid van die party gesing. Die konstitusionele hof het verlede week AfriForum se aansoek om verlof tot appel om die lied tot haatspraak te laat verklaar van die hand gewys. Om hieroor te gesels, sluit die regskenner advokaat Mark Oppenheimer en die politieke ontleder Professor Lesiba Teffo by my aan. Mark, so the Constitutional Court denied leave to appeal. Does this essentially mean that Julius Malema can argue that he was given the green light by the Con Court to sing this song, that it is not unconstitutional?
Yes, I think you can say that. Now, the Constitutional Court has not entertained a hearing of the matter. It didn't allow for argument. It has said that it will not entertain a hearing. What that means is that the Supreme Court of Appeal's finding that the song does not constitute hate speech stands, and in some senses that has the stamp of approval from the Constitutional Court. Of course, without any of the reasoning from the Constitutional Court, and I think many people will find this upsetting and baffling, that a matter of such public importance that goes to human rights like free speech and dignity is not being heard. And so I think a lot of people are concerned about that, especially given that the song has been so recently in the news with Mr. Malema singing the song on Human Rights Day, and the sense of aghast that the international community has had. Marco Rubio has tweeted about this, as has Elon Musk. Videos of the song have been viewed tens of millions of times, and outside of South Africa it is viewed as quite clearly an example of hate speech that targets people because they're Afrikaans.
Lesiba, so the ANC have said that there's no reason why this song should be sung in South Africa today. Do you agree?
Yeah, yes. Let me just at the outset, look, I'm a proponent of the values that undergird the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, namely nation building, social cohesion, and reconciliation. Any leader worth its salt would strive for that because we have a fractured past. With that understanding, I would forever be mindful when I open my mouth. A nascent nation, a young nation in the making, it doesn't want people who will use expressions that are inimical and offensive to the founding values of the Constitution, regardless of the colors of the T-shirt or ideological orientation. I'm a patriot. And I move from the premise that says we have a young nation to build, and it is possible to find each other and move forward.
Mark, so I mean, AfriForum have said that the judges are practicing or applying the law in an ideological way, and that some of them are perhaps radical. Is this not a case where if you don't agree with a court's judgment, you sort of, cast aspersions on our courts and our judges?
I think we should generally be careful about casting aspersions on particular judges, especially as a member of the bar and as an officer of a court. I take the view that we should respect the decisions of courts. But I think that's a separate conversation to be had about whether we should have a concern about our judiciary. And it's known to us that the Judicial Services Commission has had a highly ideological approach in the selection of judges and the opposition to certain people, either on what they believe or based on the color of their skin or because of their sex. So if we know that to be the case, if we know that certain people will never become judges because we have an ideological process, we should then expect that some people have become judges because they have said the right things, are favoured in the movement. We know, for example, that the ANC's cadre deployment program specifically sought certain judges to be deployed as cadres in the movement. This is part of the Zondo Commission's report. So I don't think it's out of line to have that concern. I think as well, one of the advantages we have in a precedent-based system is that judges have to express their views on paper. And you can then evaluate the positions that they've taken and determine for yourself whether that's ideological or not. So for example, in the original hearing of the matter, The interpretation of the song by the High Court was that Boer does not refer to farmers, it does not refer to white people, it does not refer to Afrikaners. It refers to the incumbent regime, in other words, the ANC government. So I didn't realize this, but actually when the EFF was singing Shoot to Kill, Kill the Farmer, they were complaining about the way that the ANC haven't put forward a land reform process. Now that's written in the court's judgment, and so one can apply one's mind to that and see how seriously it's taken. There's also a serious concern that we have double standards, that I don't think anybody in this country would think for a moment that if you substituted certain terms in that song, that it would be viewed as protected speech or political speech. I think the likelihood is that you would be languishing in a prison cell somewhere. And I also take the view that while it may be that some speech is lawfully protected, there are other reasons why one refrains from certain conduct, and nation building is one of those things. And I think if people feel isolated and they feel that they are not truly South African, that they're second-class citizens, that's not good for anybody.
Lesiba, do you agree? Should we be concerned about how our judges are appointed if this comes down to the issue of this case not being heard in the Constitutional Court?
I'm always wary to appraise the conduct of the judges because I also have that background. I'm a senior student of philosophy, that's my orientation. Law is just accidental, picked up along the highway of life. But it is also important to understand that man is not made for the law. The law is made for man. Should it arise at what given time that the law does no longer serve the interests of man, it behoves man himself to change the law. If we have come to a stage where we feel like certain laws at one stage were appropriate, or circumstances warrant that the law must change, at least in order to ensure that the values that undergird the Constitution are realized, it's an ideal that we must always strive for. We'll never reach that plateau, right? Or even that apex. But the bottom line is, if you fashion a society in whichever way, and if you are a responsible leader who's not about the self but the other, who wants to leave a legacy for posterity, a better tomorrow for posterity, you should always be mindful that we have the laws, but at the same time, there can be a conflict between legality and morality. And morality for me at this juncture supersedes the legality. Legality would say it is illegal maybe not to sing the song, right? But morality on the ground would say, vis-a-vis with the society we want to build, right? It does. Why this song in particular? There are so many liberation songs, right? There are so many. And somebody said, but look, if we were to conduct a referendum, like I said, I bet my last dollar or penny, it's very likely that the majority of blacks, by far the black majority, would say there was, once upon a time, it made sense, but not at this juncture. It militates against what we want to achieve.
But Lesiba, do you think that it's just an attempt by a political leader, by Julius Malema, to stay relevant, to create headlines? Here we are tonight, we are discussing him,
what else? In the absence of what else? Why would he want to pursue this line that he knows it's offensive? By the by, right? He's a protege of Peter Mugaba. Peter Mugaba was once called to order or strongly reprimanded by Nelson Mandela. He said to him, young man, if you don't stop singing this song, which militates against the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, maybe it's time you leave the ANC to go and form your party. It is there in black and white. They know it. I'm speaking on a public platform. And there are many within the ANC, especially the elders, who will allude to that. I'm not making it up. For 4 months, he avoided interaction with the old man at any possible juncture or opportunity. Because he was given that mandate, that instruction. It's there in black and white. Those who are listening right now, Google, you will find the statement I'm making.
Mark, if AfriForum says that they would like to pursue other channels, perhaps even international channels, to have this case heard, is there any prospect of success? How would that realistically look?
There There are international bodies. So the UN has a body that specifically seeks to eliminate racial discrimination, and so a complaint could be raised there. Arguably, the ICJ could be approached by another state, not by AfriForum. So the International Court of Justice deals with disputes between states. It would be, of course, an interesting situation because the complaint could be brought on the Genocide Convention, that if the state were refusing to stop genocidal speech, that it would then have breached its duties. And so one could imagine that South Africa would be a plaintiff at the ICJ and a defendant as well. But that would be an avenue that could be taken by some other state. We know, for example, that the Gambia brought litigation against Myanmar without its citizens facing a genocide.
And what about opportunity, or is there any chance that this case might reach the Constitutional Court via a different route? Or is this settled now?
So one way to think about this is that the nature of the arc of justice is long. If we think about how our system works, you can have a precedent that can be set aside. For example, if you think about Roe versus Wade in America, that court in the 70s said that there is a constitutional right to abortion. The court in Dobbs said there is no such right. So 50 years later, you had a reversal. You might very well have a court that changes its composition, that a different complaint is brought, and that eventually reaches that court, and a new decision is reached. For example, in 2011, the Equality Court found that Dubulu Bunu constituted hate speech. The High Court in the Kill the Boer case was aware of the decision and departed from it. So there is a sense in which courts disagree with each other. There is never any real finality, but at least for now, the decision stands.
Mark, Lesiba, thank you so much. Bly ingeskakel, hierna vra ek watter lesse het ons sedert die COVID-pandemie geleer en later vra ons of die DA en ANC ooreenkoms bereik het wat die begroting betref.